So we're gonna start this or what? Kristen, you're muted.
Yeah, they said they were still waiting to start, so.
I don't even see my picture up there yet.
I don't either. I don't see Scott either.
The only person I see is Ty's down the bottom, and you're up there, and
Yeah.
then Ty. But
I see Ty, but he's gone, but I do see him. I don't see you.
hurry up, Ty. Let's get this going. You look confused.
He's muted.
I know he's muted. He's confused. Hit your screen, hit unmute, then I can hear you. Still can't hear you, brother. Top right corner.
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Well, when you get done there, you know where the boat is, right? Huh?
You can hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Well, when you get done there, you know where the boat is, right?
Is everybody else muted?
Huh?
We just need people to stay muted so we don't get feedback.
Get unmuted. Oh, no, you're muted. Mute.
Keeps going back and forth, but I'm not doing anything.
There, yeah, there you go.
Can you guys hear me now?
We can hear you, but we
Okay.
can't see you.
Let's try this again. So we're gonna go to number 3. And for all the board members, Mr. Pittman would like for a show of hands. And if you are opposed to any of the things that we are voting on, please unmute and let us know. So review for approval the minutes and executive session memorandum of April 16th, 2020, and executive session memorandum of May 7th, 2020. And we already have a motion and a second. And we've had questions on the motion. Now we are at all in favor of the motion. Please show a raise of hands. Mrs. Collier, Mr. Garrison, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Arnold, and Mr. Gilbert are all in favor. So none opposed. So is that what we need? Okay. Okay. Motion's approved, 7-0. So moving on, item D, persons to address the board relative to the agenda. We have Rob Phillips, 1411 Springville.
All I have tonight is we should consider and talk about it and maybe in the future fire the superintendent. That's what I want to say. He didn't respond, but he lied to me how many times. I'm still blocked on Facebook page. You can't tell the truth. It's not in you.
Thanks, Mr. Phillips.
Cause trouble with Eastern, cause trouble here. Or Cardinal Freight Springville. If anything, you all should have been down there. The parents crying, teachers crying, me crying. Shows a lack of caring. We had these meetings, COVID-19. Even when there was only 10 to be here, I couldn't come. My house out of that. You keep on having these meetings. You ought to think about us public a little bit. You care. And act like you care.
Rob, we do care. We wouldn't go through what's going on. We do care. I care.
I'm glad to hear that.
Doesn't mean we agree with everything, but I care. I'm
Right.
sure these guys care. They wouldn't come up here and be.
And personnel are too scared to say anything to you guys. They're getting moved. They're getting put where they didn't want to go, way across the county, pretty much. They're getting demoted. Anybody spoke out against this man is getting the hammer thrown at them. And you know it. You all know it. It's time for changes, real changes. It's not closing our schools. With COVID-19, it's smaller, not better. You can't have as many people around each other. You're gonna throw 350, 400 kids in a school with this disease, this virus? Shame on you guys. Shame on you, all of us.
Thank you. Next up, Scott Smith. Scott's actually going to comment on an agenda item number 4.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, Scott.
I'm just wanting to address the bus bid contracts. I had a phone call from Dr. Mungle this afternoon. And he did inform me that my wife was awarded a bus contract and I wasn't. And I had a question too for him. He told me to check on it, call me back. And he didn't. My question is the routes I bid on and the route I bid the lowest amount on, I'm now being informed that the corporation has decided to draw that route. First of all, that can be done. That was my most responsive bid that I put in. If I'd known that was going to happen, I would probably put a low and responsive bid on another route. Second of all, he awarded routes paying more, as much or more in other areas. So I don't really understand why that route was chosen to be brought back after the bids were put out and after it was advertised. I'm willing to pay to find out. But I think it's a concern that you should look at before you go forward with the bid process on whether that was done in a collective bargaining situation or not. I was not contacted to adjust my bid or if I would consider another bid. And not just speaking for me, but anyone who drove a bus as a contractor, and this is prior to Dr. Mungle's administration, you know, your contractors have put up with a lot of, I won't say grief. We went through extensions. We've been told we're going to bid, then we're not going to bid. Go buy buses. It's going to happen this year. It doesn't happen. I've actually bought 2 buses that fall within the terms of the guidelines for this new contract. And this has not went on just in the last year. This has went on probably 3 years now, I would say, that we've gotten ready to do it and we have it. But I'd just like for you to look at that, look at the actual route of E49. I was tied on that as a low bidder. The person I was tied with was awarded another route, which would have put me the most lowest responsive bidder on that. The bid amount was $219. It was lower than other routes that he's going to award tonight or ask you to award. I just like to look at that and take your consideration.
Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. That was all of the, okay, that was all of the, that was all for item D. Moving on, item E, business services, Mrs. Roan. Is Janice?
Mr. President, for claims and payroll for April and May since our last board meeting.
State your name and address.
$5,215,439.85 in claims and payroll. I'm seeking your approval.
Get a motion to approve. Mr. Gilbert makes the motion and a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Arnold seconds the motion. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, could we have a show of hands? Mrs. Collier, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gillespie, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gilbert, all vote in favor. Motion's passed unanimously.
Thank you.
Item F, general, Dr. Mungle.
I'd like to just share with Mrs. Dayton to do this presentation. I know this is something that she has worked with United Way on, so, yeah, go ahead.
Mrs. Burgess, and then United Way, we had a meeting a few months ago. And
Before all this.
Yes, before all this, and we're just talking about the things for, sorry, my mouth is off, I'm also trying to, I don't know what.
You're good.
And just sharing about the early learning center and the preschool program that we will be opening at Stalker, and our desire for it to be a STEM learning program in preschool, and supporting that and the goals of the United Way and their funding. And they have generously will be giving us $50,000 for this year to support that preschool program, and $25,000 for subsequent years. So
And anything else we can raise.
Yes.
Oh, that's
So
great.
We are
That's
so
great.
thankful. Last meeting, Project Lead the Way is an initiative we're doing in the elementary schools, and this funding will help us bring it to the preschool so that they will have that basis in preschool. And as we know, our goal at North Lawrence, they don't have certification yet, but we're going to drive the way is becoming the first STEM certified preschool. So we are excited about the opportunity to bring this to our youngest learners. So thank you. And share anything else?
Well, I just want to thank everybody. I'm new. I was born and raised, graduated at BNL in '79, and then moved to Fort Lauderdale. So I just came back last year. I've been here a year exactly now. And then I was hired by United Way, and we're going to completely restructure the way United Way works, and we're going to be more community oriented, and we really want to get involved with the school system, specifically the pre-Ks, because I know that the STEM is the way to go with the kids. So that'll be one of our big funding initiatives will be the preschool program with the school board. And then other part, we got other partnerships we're going to that you like to hear about.
Yeah.
Well, that's greatly appreciated. We appreciate any help we
And I
can
know
get.
we're excited. I know I've had several businesses and employers very excited about the opportunity for the Early Learning Center, which will obviously provide childcare to many of their employees. And I think a lot of them are interested in trying to look to support a licensed and a
Right.
early learning center of the magnitude that we're going to have. And as we've been making progress and cleaning and doing different things, it's taken shape, and it's going to be an exciting place for Northwest.
Yeah, and it's needed here in the county. I know the child care is desperately needed.
So we get maybe down the road a little bit, we'll have to come back and we'll take a tour of the facility,
Yeah,
and
we'd love to
maybe
do
a
that, right?
photo opportunity or
Yep.
just to share some.
Right. That'd be perfect. We'll be waiting for that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Item G, curriculum, Mrs. Dayton.
The first, should I
Unmute. But then don't unmute.
can they hear me?
Trent, you're gonna.
Oh,
You may move it.
Dr. Gerges said
Or
he could
just
hear me.
mute it. Yeah, they can hear you.
Okay.
We can.
Okay, great. Okay, the first item I have just for approval is the a motion to approve consolidating the Parkview campus. Right now, Parkview Primary and Parkview Intermediate have two school numbers. And what that means is that they have two school improvement plans and funding two different pots. And we want to best use the resources for our students and allow a teacher or an instructional assistant to be able to work in either building. And right now, those are separate. And so I would like a motion to approve just consolidating the Parkview campus into Parkview Intermediate's number, which is 4932. And so that would take away the primary number. With a primary building, just for history, with a primary building and an intermediate building, accountability and grades, they always take on the intermediate building's number because there is no testing in primary. And so that's why we're taking on the intermediate number for the whole campus. So a motion for you to approve that.
Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Arnold makes a motion in a second. Mr. Gilbert seconds the motion. Questions on the motion?
Rusty seconded it.
Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands to approve. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gergis, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gilbert, all vote in favor, 7-0, unanimously passes. Thank you.
And just a couple of updates. Usually in May, we would bring you textbook fees for the following school year. Obviously, with these circumstances, there are a couple of different, we're getting fees to update Chromebooks for different grade levels as we purchase to renew Chromebooks that are outdated. But there's been a large demand for devices, as you can imagine, with so many families and people working from home. So we hope to bring that to you, or plan to bring that to you in June, as we're just trying to gather quotes for the number of devices that we need. In addition, our teachers are examining curriculum right now for English language arts. It is needed in our K-8, and so they're working on reviewing different vendors right now, and so we hope to have a decision in June as well. So just wanted to update you. That's something that's usually done in May that we will move to June. And then I also wanted to share what we have. I'm going to try and present. Oh, can I present? We just sent out a survey to our family just for the fall plans that was received yesterday or today. Also looking at internet access in our homes as we work to purchase hotspots, preparing for next year, and devices. We also Messenger, shared it on Facebook and those other avenues as well. In addition, for the elementary, we also had a classroom placement consideration form. We definitely just want to hear everyone's thoughts and what parents feel are the best, the attributes that their child needs best for placement in the classroom for the fall school year. So that was just communication as we wrap up the end of the year. Tomorrow is our official last day of school, although it is very untraditional. A huge thank you to our teachers as we continue for their hard work. They've not only been teaching, but we have trained, 86 teachers in Project Lead the Way, which is the hands-on training for science and engineering skills. And so with a big thanks to Naomi Trojan and Connie McDaniel for leading that training. So our teachers have not only been teaching, but they've been participating in their own professional development. And then we're also training teachers in a program called Readable English. And this is a multisensory method to support all students, but especially our students that struggle in reading in grades 2 and up. And so we started with a small cohort and hope to expand throughout the summer just to provide, again, additional supports for our students when we start in August. So we'll do enough to.
Can you show the one slide just on some of the progress that we've made, or do you have access to that?
Which one?
Well, just on our, the different English and math scores where we had looked, I think one of the coaches had shared it with you. And I just thought, we don't have the most up-to-date data, but we can clearly see, and it shows the progress that not only the teachers and I think the instructional coaches, but just Maggie and the efforts of everyone, where our students are making those advancements. And those are the criteria that we look at as far as the state looks at, as far as I learned and that. I don't know if you have that or not.
Yeah. So NWEA is a measure that we use to kind of gauge student progress. And if you look, this is from last school year. And so math is in the top left corner and reading is in the bottom right. And the diamond is where our target goal is, and the bar is where we are. And you can kind of see that in many of our grade levels, we're not where the diamond and the bar don't meet. And that's what we would want, the diamond and the bar to meet, or like in first grade, the bar to exceed the diamond. So that was for last school year. We test in fall, winter, and spring on those scores. And because of the situation, we were only able to test in fall and winter. But with the work and the teachers kind of already looking at that data and informing their instruction this year, our, as you can see, our bars are much closer to where our diamonds are. And so we're excited about the progress that they've made. And as we continue to focus our instruction and our strategies, we are excited about what we can continue to do for our students.
It's just exciting to see their hard work, and I know the teachers have worked hard, and the instructional coaches and Mrs. Date, and obviously, and once you start to see that data and it's moving in the right direction, and we have that baseline data, we are disappointed, and we would have liked to again had our spring scores, but we'll have to wait and adjust. But I know that was shared, and I thought it was worth sharing this evening. I saw it last week. Thank you.
Maggie, also, I know you mentioned the survey on, and a good response to those coming back. Do we know yet? I mean, I think there was something put out about the Early Learning Center and how many people would be. Do we have any numbers on that yet?
On students, actually, we're getting ready after this presentation, we're getting ready to roll out the enrollment form. So we've been just taking names of as people call and they've heard, but we are getting ready to roll out the enrollment form online. That will be digital. I'm going to send it to everyone that has called first tomorrow, and then we'll publish it tomorrow on our website just so that they have already put their names in. But we will start with 3-year-olds, 3 to 5-year-olds is what North Lawrence will support. So they would be 3 by August 1st of 2020, but then they can still be added to the list, and we would be able to add them as soon as they turn 3. And then in the collaboration, we'll still have Head Start will be there, and they will be offering the Head Start program that was previously housed at Meanmore, and then adding an early Head Start program as well.
Okay.
Maggie, one other question on the out of the 500 responses, what's the percentage of, or a guesstimate or something, how many of them are wanting to do online and how many of them are wanting to go to school?
So the majority, well, over 50% are say, yes, I want to send my child to school in the fall. But we have I'm not sure. So there's about 30% and I'm not sure. And I have to look exactly, but it was less than 10% last time I looked that said they did not want an LCS online option.
The other thing that was a little bit to our surprise, I mean, with the surveys, the connectivity, the internet access is greater than maybe we had anticipated. But in fairness, we are getting the survey digitally. So, we may be getting it from those families, but we'll continue to look at that information.
Yeah, And one thing I wanted to say, because I've already started to read through the comments, is the choice boards, they were done for elementary students. And that was, you know, and a lot of parents commented, they realized we didn't have a lot of time to get ready, and that was done because, and they were kind of already had skills. If we go online in the fall, they aren't gonna have skills that we can do choice boards for. So online instruction in the fall for our elementary students will look very different. And that was, you know, we weren't prepared, you know, we rushed and got what we needed, but online in the fall for elementary will look different, and it will look more, more like school, I guess, if you can online, but more like high school. Not in that it would be meeting and they would have assignments. So I just wanted to mention that. And then that is part of that Chromebook as well. By purchasing more Chromebooks, we'll have the ability to be one-to-one across the district. So we'll be able to offer those.
I may have completely misunderstood, but they turn 3, if the child turns 3 by August 1st,
Mhm.
they can enroll.
To start right away.
Start right away. So if they turn 3 in December, can they start then?
If we have spots, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And we'd encourage you to fill out the form so we have some on the waiting list that have February birthdays, but then we know to expect them.
Okay. Do people know that I mean, is there on the form that you're sending out, do they know that they can
Yes.
basically start late? Is it
Yes, that's what it says.
But I wouldn't-
Yeah, it says, yeah, please. It says 3 by August 1st, but enroll your child if they're under 3, we'll contact you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Moving on. Thanks, Maggie.
Thank you.
Item H, personnel, Mrs. Wintzak.
Start with new hires. Certified, we have Nicholas Boyd for BNL Science Instructor for next school year. Allison Brown, Lincoln Reading Specialist next school year. Jason Byler, BNL Science Instructor for the next school year. Laura Walton, BNL Director of Guidance. She will start July 30th. And BNL High School Summer Office, Mr. Kingsley has requested extra working days for Tammy Byer in the registrar office to complete grade finalization rollover registration and for this year, you know, to complete this year. And in transportation, Elizabeth McKillop as a corporation driver router effective May 26th. And our summer school courses and instruction include Rebecca Armbruster, Matt Canada, is going to be the administrator, Janelle Davidson, Tim Day, BJ Fortin, Joachim Ledwig, JD McCombs, Emily Shum, Heather Stafford, Brian Dennis, Kristen Webb, Laura Williams. And for the BMS Summer Food Services, that will be Rebecca Hardman, the kitchen manager, Jamie Hayes, and Alicia Price as cook. I'm doing all of those to you for your approval.
Get a motion to approve.
So moved.
Mr. Gilbert makes the motion and a second.
Second,
Mr. Arnold seconds the motion. Questions on the motion?
Rusty seconded.
Seeing,
Yeah, I do have a question. On the summer school programs, is that all based on, or contingent upon enrollment? So if a class is not enrolled, that teacher or that class would not be offered?
Correct.
Okay,
And that's the virtual summer school.
okay, so it will be all online then? Okay.
any other questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gergis, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold, all vote in favor. 7-0 unanimously passed.
Thank you. Transfers, certified, we have Sarah Conover, will be transferring from reading ready instructional assistant to a halftime reading specialist teacher, and she will be at Parkview. Under support staff, we have Susanna Brock transferring from Fayetteville cook to BMS cook. Christy Cook transferring from BMS instructional assistant to BMS music department assistant. Lynn Davison, transferring from Stocker Cook to Lincoln. Linda Egan's, transferring from Fayetteville Kitchen Manager to Lincoln Kitchen Manager. Jody Dodsey, transferring from Springville Kitchen Manager to PBI Kitchen Manager. Rebecca Harding, transferring from PBI to BMS Kitchen Manager. Carla Hudson, transferring from Stocker Kitchen Manager to Rollins OMS Campus Cook. Beverly Newman, transferring from PBI Cook to BMS Cook. Stacy New, transferring from Don's OMS Cook to BNL Cook. Noah Ramey, transferring from BMS Cook to Shawford Cook. Rebecca Self, transferring from Springville Cook to Needmore Cook. Sandra Spear, transferring from Stocker Cook to Parkview Intermediate Cook. I bring those to you for your approval.
Get a motion to approve.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Did I ask for questions on the motion?
No.
Any questions on the motion? All in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold, all vote in favor, 7-0, unanimously passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Under support staff, BNL, we have Tammy Byer, BNL Registrar, Food Services, Jackie Jones, Needmore Cook, and she will be effective August 7th, so that doesn't start until August 7th. Bring those to you for your approval.
Motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Mr. Gilbert makes the motion, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Arnold seconds the motion. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold. All vote in favor, 7-0, unanimously passed.
Thank you. And a couple of extracurricular positions, both at BNL. Josie Barnes Bartlett for the assistant volleyball coach, and Kaylee Reinders for BNL head cheer coach. Bring those two for your approval.
A motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Mr. Arnold makes the motion in a second. Mr. Gilbert seconds the motion. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold, all vote in favor, 7-0, unanimously passed.
Thank you. And I have a number of information items, starting with resignations. Certified resignations, Abigail Brim resigning as BMS resource instructor, Carrington Briscoe resigning as NLCC, the Career Center Health Science instructor. Adam Capes resigning as resource instructor, who's at Brownstown. Jennifer Denisha resigning as special education instructor. Stephanie Drake resigning as preschool instructor. And Amy Cleaver resigning as homebound instructor. Andy Van Ness resigning as BNL English instructor. Sarah Smith resigning as Old Lake Middle School 7th grade English instructor. Under support, Regina Abel resigning as Lincoln kitchen manager. Wanda Corneliuson resigning as Don's instructional assistant. Alexandra Huddleston resigning as Don's Title I instructional assistant. Lacey Russell resigning as Heltonville cook. Sylvia Way resigning as NLCS custodian. And ECAs, Wendy Butterfield resigning as Needmore cheer dance coach. Brian Hawkins resigning as BNL chess club sponsor. Heather Patterson resigning as Shawswick Elementary STEAM coordinator. Sandra Phillips resigning as Needmore math club coach. Laura Williams resigning as BNL English department chair and also pet club sponsor. And one additional retirement, Lynette Price resigning as Heltonville instructor at the end of this year. And that is all I have for you tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Christy. Item I, general, Dr. Mungle.
Well, the first reading on the NLCS handbooks, we have those two items. The handbooks is for each of the schools. We are going to one handbook for the elementary. It'll be the same for all those, and also the middle school. We are including in the handbook the athletic portion of the handbook, just to simplify things, but obviously you've been provided that electronically. They're just making those. We typically have a first reading, no actions needed, but just to let you know, and then when we come back together next month, we will get those approved. Also, our support staff handbook, we have been working with JA Benefits, and we'll continue also to work with our administrative team and the business office, and we're also reaching out and getting feedback from all of the different groups, but an effort to go through and kind of simplify that and look at that. So we just asked the first reading. We're continuing to meet. We've been meeting, obviously, to do our meetings through Zoom. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but we're getting that done. So that has been provided to you electronically as well. We are kind of using a model or a template, which was recommended to us, which was Center Grove Schools. They just went through this process. So we're kind of using that template. Now, on to item A, or I, the summer meal program. We will continue our summer meal program. We will be off next week, I think, just to with Memorial Day week and Memorial being Monday, and I think just the hard work and dedication of all of our support staff and the cooks and everyone. And it's also an effort because it is a summer meal program. That is a different federal program, so it would allow us to kind of close out what we're doing now and kind of the effort with COVID-19 and all of the meals that we continue to provide the families. But then we will start at Bedford Middle School on Mondays and Thursdays and have meal pickup from 12 to 1, and we'll advertise that and get that message out. And I'm thankful if this is a program that does cost the school system money, but we have reduced those costs, so it's minimal, and I think it by far the benefit of providing those meals is something that we need to do. So that's just kind of a informational item that because several people have asked if the meals will continue. Our end of the year project.
I've got a question first.
Yes. Question.
Just, I assume this will be done the same way that the meal program was done during the school year. They'll come in and they'll pick up 3 days worth of meals for each child that they have. And then they'll pick them up on Mondays and Thursdays to get them, it's just not one meal on Monday and one meal on Thursday. It's 3 per child per, on Monday and on Thursdays.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's a very good point. It isn't just on Mondays and Thursdays. On Mondays, families will be provided 3 meals, and also on Thursdays, they will be provided 3 meals. We are putting the extra meal in there for Saturday. It isn't required, but I just think during these times, and that is something that we've been doing since COVID-19 hit, that we have been providing meals 6 days a week for those family members. So we're going to go ahead and continue that this summer. But that's a very good point, and I'm glad you brought that to our attention.
I was hoping that's what it was.
Yeah, it is. The end of the year projects, obviously, the teachers and support staff, and I think just everyone as a whole, it has been an effort to obviously go through lots of different items, curriculum, resources, and lots of different materials. It's given the teachers the opportunity to go through their resources and their materials many times at the end of the year. The end of the year is up. And we have also placed a tremendous amount of items in storage for an auction. I'll probably come to you in June for a date for that auction that we will look at. Obviously, before anything is sold or anything of that nature, we will make sure that any items that are needed. But we are going through and doing our very best to use the most up-to-date or the newest, or trying to put those items together as far as student desk or classroom desk or different resources. But we do have very many items. I think with the auction, I mean, that is something that we always try to do. And when we obviously to sell items and remove items, that's a process we have to go through. It's sometimes a costly process that oftentimes the cost of having an auction cost 3, 4, 5 times more than actually the benefit of the auction. But that is something we're going through. We've also reached out on our meal days. We've been giving a tremendous number of resources and materials away. We reached out to the teachers.
Yeah, Teachers Warehouse started today because of the extended restrictions in Monroe County that's going to come until this week. But they have a list of sites that they'll be visiting to go through materials. You know, our teachers get a lot from them, so we wanted to definitely allow them to come and add more resources to their facility.
I know when I worked the lunches at OMS and Dahlin, there was teachers there and they had books on tables, and there was a lot of books and materials distributed to them at that time. So good use of extra.
You know, it's a little bit of a challenge sometimes with the younger generation. They've been raised with iPads and phones and videos and those different types of resources, but obviously we're doing our best to distribute those items. I think a couple items I just want to bring to your attention, or if you've heard anything, we are getting some repairs made to the roof at Needmore. We have contacted B&L Roofing to make those repairs that we needed at Needmore, and we'll kind of be evaluating a little bit that. And then we will be in the process of taking bids for Stalker, the roof at Stalker. So that is something that we're going to be proceeding with. And it has been a little bit, it was something that was projected for the funds that were borrowed. I think we're just getting around to it with everything that's going on. But facility wise, we're also doing our best, and I think kind of making a list for those things. So that's a little bit on that. The next item, I do need action taken. I don't know if you remember, but obviously our lunch program is a federal program. And I know several school districts around us, if you have followed this month, they have increased their meal prices by a dime. And that is something that we are far from what is projected that we need to be at. But we do have to take strides to get to that number. Last year, we did write a waiver, and we were able to freeze, and we didn't do an increase, but I bring you this year that recommendation. We've provided that to you. Mrs. Green has written something up, and I know, well, a lot of the neighboring school districts I've seen it in, and it's just something basically we have to do to participate in the program. So it's just a 10 cent increase from last year. And that basically allows us to continue to provide the free lunches that we provide and the reduced price lunches that we provide.
Get a motion to approve.
Make the motion.
Mr. Gilbert makes a motion in a second.
I'll second it.
Mr. Arnold seconds the motion. Questions on the motion?
I just think it's ridiculous that we have to raise lunch prices because we're told to raise lunch prices, even though our our food service department is very, very cost conscious and does a great job. And this is how we get paid back, is we have to raise lunch prices. It just, every year I've been on the board and that's happened, it just absolutely infuriates me that people are having, and I know it's just a dime and it's $18 a year if it's 180 days. And, you know, it may be $36 if you eat both meals, but it just, you know, if you've got 2 kids in or 3 kids in school, it adds up, and it just irritates me that we're not allowed to save money.
And the good thing is, I guess in a little bit, we are giving 6 meals away, and, you know, we just have 5 now. So, I mean, I think if there are those different ways that we can try to share something, and this is a way, probably the COVID-19, I'm just estimating, that we're probably gonna be in that $25,000 to $30,000 range. But we've provided thousands of meals to families in our district, and it's been a benefit. But it is unfortunate, I think. I mean, it's just one of those things that we all do. You know, I haven't done a comparison, and I could look and see just out of our interest, you know, where we kind of compare. But my guess is we're fortunately, because we do take some breaks, maybe we're a little bit behind, you know, where some of the other school districts are. But yes, I agree. Next up,
We gotta vote on that.
we need to vote on that. Let's vote.
I interrupted you.
I didn't see any other questions on the motion. All in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gergis, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, and Mr. Arnold, 7-0. Motion's passed unanimously.
Next up, I do have the approval of the school bus transportation contracts. I had shared with you those. We did, obviously, you can see the calculations there. We did have some individuals that were contractors that have made a decision to not maintain a school bus and have decided to drive for the school corporation. And in doing so, obviously, when they agreed to drive for the school corporation, they had a preference on where they live and, you know, where they wanted to drive. Through the bus bid process, it's the language that we've used and most schools do. It is unfortunate. I mean, just because we advertise routes doesn't mean that we have to award all of those routes. In fact, we can throw out all the bids and we can start over fresh, and that from that standpoint. And I know we did have some former contractors that are now willing or have now chosen to drive for us and will be in certain routes. So obviously it was a benefit to the school corporation, in return a benefit as far as the dollar amount, the total dollar amount out for the contracted routes. We did go through and in running those routes, that dollar amount was the least expensive amount for each of those routes. It is, and I think anytime you go through the bid process, obviously we're tied with the kind of the state guidelines and how that process goes, as far as, you know, advertising and taking the bids and different things. We do have several contractors that have driven for North Lawrence Community Schools for several years that, you know, were not awarded a route. Obviously, I think any of those individuals, if they would be interested, I think in any way, you know, I think, you know, as far as some of the individuals, we are looking at purchasing some school buses from bus drivers that are no longer going to be driving a bus. It kind of behooves us to purchase those buses because we have about $2,000 worth of equipment already in those buses with cameras and radios and different things. I guess a little bit, I know a question was brought this evening. If the board felt like, or if, we felt like it was in the best interest, if Mr. Pittman wanted to look over it and make sure, but, I've provided you all the bids and the request and the information,
And I do have a question. I mean, it's very detailed, and I've just been sitting here trying to pick it apart, and I think I do have several questions for Mr. Pittman. And it's just a lack of understanding, I guess, I'm looking, and I'm sure there's things here that, I don't know the limitations on how many routes that you can bid. I have a number of questions like that. So what is it? Can we table this? And well, I think, I don't know. Do you have any questions?
Can we
on what-
approve the other 18? I don't even know how, with reference to his question, can we approve
I'm
the ones
seeing,
that we have now and possibly go back and look at, did you say it was need more 9? And can we go back and look at that route?
Need-for 9 is where I'm the lowest bidder, and the reason my concern is the amount I bid is in the bottom 2/3 of the amount bid. So you discuss the saving money, but 33% of the bids you're going to award tonight are at a higher amount than what my bid is. So I don't see how it is a benefit to the school system to pull that route back when there's 33% of the routes that he's awarding are paying more than what I bid.
Doesn't it depend on the length of the route though?
Well, if you guys laid it out, they're all supposed to be pretty much equal.
so there's a
The
max daily
difference is
miles.
The difference in that though is we have somebody that is willing, a school employee that's willing to drive that route for $100 a day. And we already own a bus for that route. So it will be a savings if the school corporation keeps the route.
And I understand that.
But that isn't what that isn't what was communicated.
That wasn't part of the bidding process. If you were going to throw that option out there, then why would we even bid on that route? You should have found that out prior to putting these bids out. You don't put someone's livelihood or basing their investment in a bus on the decision that you make in 7 days. And hey, I found somebody a better deal.
So I seen 22. My scratch is up here. I see 22, and then we were potentially ordering or awarding 18. Is that right? So 4 of them were going to be corporation routes. So that just starts my question process. So there's several legalese things that I think that we should probably discuss. And I don't know. I would, right now, I think that we should possibly table this to just to get some of these questions answered.
You can do that. Would it be right, wrong? I don't know. This
Legally.
question. Legally, can we approve the 18 and look at the other?
Well,
four, or-
I would not encourage or recommend that the board approve any. Because once you approve any, then it starts to restrict limitations on the others. So I think the board needs to approve what they're going to approve when they feel comfortable approving it. Because once you've entered into some contracts, that would, I'm going to say, would open you up to more legalities.
Yeah, it'd be better just to award them all at the same time.
Yes, right.
Well, I'll just make a motion, we table it then.
And a motion to table item
got Kamal with two fingers up. I don't know if he's wanting peace or if he's the second.
Second or I'll-
Item 4, motion to table item 4 in a second.
Second.
Mr. Gilbert seconds,
Kamal.
or, yeah, let's switch it up. Dr. Gerges second. Sorry, I'm not trying to cut you out. So all in favor of tabling the motion, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold. 7-0 to table.
And we'll go ahead and skip over the next one as far as approval of bus purchases. Those were some contractors,
Buses,
yeah,
okay, makes sense.
until we make a decision. Then next up, just permission, I just need a vote from the board. Mr. Pittman and I have met with Jane Herndon, who is a bond counsel attorney who has helped North Lawrence Schools, and Damien. And we just need permission to go ahead and advertise for a public hearing, that we can start the steps that I had talked about last month as far as borrowing money from the debt service fund to maintain what our tax rate was, just like historically North Lawrence has done like every other year. So.
Could I get a motion to approve?
Make the motion.
That's number 6, right, Dr. Mogul?
Yeah.
Mr. Gilbert makes them.
Number 5.
Yeah, we actually had a late agenda item of the
Oh,
purchase
okay.
of the bus purchases,
Okay.
so. But we skipped
On
over.
my thing, okay, yeah, I was gonna say all right, so we're making a motion to, for permission to advertise the public hearing. Correct.
Correct.
I got a motion, Mr. Gilbert made the motion, Mr.
Garrison.
Garrison seconded. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold, 7-0, motion approved unanimously.
Next up, I have for you the administrator contract extensions. We had several positions that were expiring this year, so that's just updating that. And I just bring that to you this evening for your approval.
You get a motion to approve.
So move.
Mr. Arnold makes the motion in a second. Mr. Gilbert seconds the motion. Questions on the motion? Seeing none, all in favor, show of hands. Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gilbert, Mr. Arnold, 7-0, motion passes unanimously. Item 8.
At this time, I'd just like to go through, and I don't know, can I share that? Will the board members at home be able to see it? We're just have the individuals that are retiring this year, and of course, we have the gifts for them. Lynette Boyer was with North Lawrence Schools for 23.5 years. Classroom teacher, PE teacher, counselor, library science aide, dance coach. You should be able to see those there. There we go.
She looks good for having taught 23 years.
Yeah. They got to share their pictures at this evening, and so we're sharing that. Next up, we have Brenda Nolan. You want to share a little bit? You're a little closer over there, Mrs. Winside. Just, you don't need to share everything, but just a little bit of information.
Science teacher, academic coach, student council, prom coordinator, big club, formal former NLEA president. 39 years.
Okay, go ahead.
Lynette Price started subbing in 1995, and she was a Hiltonville instructor since 2013-14. So a total years of service was 23 years. Ron Sagever, Shellswick grades 1 through 3 for 25 years.
Wow.
And Needmore grades 1 to 2, 22 years. Total years of service, 47 years.
Wow. That's amazing.
Angela Teeman, BNL, First Center Facts and Shellswick Middle School Facts, total years of serving LCS, 32.
Rosie the Riveter.
Yep. Lisa Webb, total, Lincoln grade 1, total years serving LCS, 36 years.
36 years in first grade.
Yeah.
Wow.
Ellie. Dr. Allen, NLCS maintenance. He was only with us 6 years, but that was his retirement job. Deborah Brown, food service, total years, 24 years. Connie Cummings, BNL, total years serving LCS, 34. Claude Davis, LCS custodian, total years serving LCS, 15. Deborah Donica, LCS custodian, total years, 5. Tony Fleetwood, known as Rock, LCS custodian, total years serving LCS, 31.
Rocket Man.
Lilia Pena, NLCS Food Services, total years serving NLCS, 18. Pam Younger, Fayetteville Administrative Assistant, total years, 31.
So we just wanted to recognize them this evening. We usually have a banquet, but we'll make sure that they get their gift, and we communicated with all of them, and obviously want to wish them their very best in their retirement. So that's all I have this evening.
All right. Moving on, item J, persons to address the board.
I'm gonna go before you. I've been sitting back here, just going over and over, trying to decide whether to even come up here or not. My name was read, and demoted from kitchen manager to Olytic staff cook. I've been a kitchen manager for 8 years. I've been in food service for 14 or 15 years. That job was my life. Those kids were my life. I put everything I had into them. And I was promised, I was guaranteed my job there whenever I accepted to stay at Stalker as kitchen manager. I was told there was gonna be 200 kids there. Even Kelly begged me to stay there instead of taking 2 other kitchen manager positions at Lincoln and Parkview that I could have put in for, which I had more years than them. So I stayed. Yesterday, I get a phone call. I've lost my job. I'm no longer a kitchen manager. I'm being demoted to a cook and losing my pay. I don't feel that's right. I mean, I put everything I've had into my kids, and I feel like I'm being punished and being demoted from my job. And it's not fair. And I just wanted to, I knew if I just sit back there and didn't say nothing, it was going to eat me up.
And it is unfortunate, and speak a little bit to that position, we will not have food service employees at Stalker Elementary. Many of the Gateway Academy students work in the morning or work in the afternoon. Not that many participate in the meal program, just because, and even with our preschool students, and in visiting with Mrs. Green, it was just more beneficial to bring those meals over from Bedford Middle School or to have those items stocked. So it is unfortunate. I don't see it. I see it as a reassignment, and obviously we have other kitchen managers, but it is not like we are replacing those individuals that were at Stock.
But if you're demoting her, she's losing the money, so it's not a replacement. Replacement would mean going from one place to another, keeping the same amount of money.
And I do
know, I'm just saying.
And I do understand that, and we've made an effort to try to place everyone. Obviously, we have not, like many of the other situations, we have worked real hard to at least try to provide employment to our individuals. And it, I know, but
If it's your job, you was ready to place on there and take a look at it, you wouldn't like it. Would you? I mean, I'm just being straightforward, man. I'm sorry. I don't even know her. I'm just standing up for her. That's ridiculous.
After she was told that kitchen managers could be doubled up and act like an assistant and not lose pay. So there's been multiple misspeakings, however you want to politely say it. She was told one thing, and another about three other things.
I need to go and give their name and address to talk.
We'll, I know Corey and Carlo, we'll discuss. No, it's okay. No, I'll get it after we're done. Any other persons to address the board? Dwayne?
My name is Dwayne Brown. I live at 219 Shandell Drive here in Bedford. I begin by saying it's been quite the year, hasn't it? I began this past year, quite honestly, knowing very few of you on the school board and in administrative positions. I think over the course of the year, I've grown to know you, to respect you, and to somewhat understand the heavy load that you carried throughout the course of this year. As a pastor, I also completely understand that it's impossible to please all the people all the time. I understand that sometimes the best of intentions can be misunderstood or misinterpreted. It's my hope that what I want to share with you falls into that category. Because I stood at this very podium on January 6th as a disappointed father, grandfather, employee, and hopefully a friend of North Lawrence Community Schools. And I shared with everyone that night that was in this room my heart at that very moment. I disclosed that I was on the visionary committee. I've taken a lot of heat since then for the benefit of the school. I was open and transparent as I possibly could be. That night, I also pled with administration on behalf of every support staff employee to not allow history to repeat itself with regards to our future. I shared how it was on the last day of the school year last year before any of us, at least at Stalker, were notified concerning our employment status for the next school year. I left that meeting with a confidence that despite all the high-flying emotions of the night, support staff would feel appreciated. We would feel needed, and with all the upcoming consolidations and school closings, I left feeling that we would know our futures for next year in a much more timely manner. In fact, I even photographed a flow chart that was sitting about right here that was on display, giving all the information as to when each personnel group was going to be notified of what was happening then. I had the assurance that I needed, and I hastened to add on numerous occasions with other support staff. I used that information to try to somewhat calm them down and reassure them that history was not going to repeat itself this year. I did that because I chose to believe that what I had been told was valid and substantial. The support staff questionnaires came out in early March and were turned in the week before COVID-19, and everything still appeared on track. And then came COVID-19 and all of its interruptions. And I don't negate that. I don't overlook the headache that it caused to all of us in this room. But since that time, however, support staff of NLCS, we've been called upon to do substantially more than any of us ever signed up for or could be found in any kind of job description as a support staff employee. Far from assisting the classroom educational experience, we've packed books, we've moved furniture, we've painted, we've hauled trash, we've done just about anything that's been asked of us. Some I saw with my own two eyes doing the task while fighting back tears as they were packing away years and years of memories. Now, granted, for a period of time, we were allowed to work less hours for full pay, and I, for one, I think I testify on behalf of all sports that we appreciate. Thank you for that opportunity. But unfortunately, as I stand here tonight, speaking on behalf of the support staff of NLCS, with tomorrow being the last day of school, none of us know what our future holds. We not only do not know where we'll be assigned, nor to what assignment we will be given, we're waiting until tomorrow, the last day of school, to once again learn whether or not we even have a job next year. Well, I know it's strictly my opinion, and no, I have not been in your shoes. I can't help but feel somehow, hopefully unintentionally, that the support staff of NLCS has been overlooked, last on the burner, and quite honestly, we're just kind of left feeling, do we really even matter? The reason is because several talented, hardworking people are going to pillow their heads tonight on this last day of school leave, just like last year, not knowing what tomorrow is going to bring. And honestly, that saddens me and grieves me that history has had to repeat itself. Thank you for allowing me to share my heart today.
Thank you, Dwayne. Any other persons to address the board?
Karen Mungia, 1812 Central Avenue. As of 8:01 this evening, that's the current time right now, I am still currently employed as a Title I aide at the school that was formerly known as Stalker Elementary School. I did not do it out of procrastination measures. I did it strictly because, as my father, Dwayne Brown, just spoke, I don't know my fate. I have a 9-year-old daughter that has been a transfer for the past 3 years at Stalker Elementary School. And as of this evening, she does not know where she will be attending school next year because I did not turn in a transfer request form that was due on May 1st of this year, strictly because I did not know where I would be, and I would have preferred that I be with her if possible, and to figure out transportation needs. I mean, if I was going to be at Needmore this coming fall and she was going to be at Parkview, that just doesn't work for our family. So that's my concern. If, I choose to have her transferred to the school that I prefer her to be at, will that still be granted? Those are my concerns, just because I still have yet to find out. And the rumor mill is circulating this evening that some people have already found out. Some support staff have found out today where they will be going for next fall. So
that is correct. We started the process today of notifying individuals individually, everyone by email, which 260 employees. So we were going through that process. We are about half, probably about 60% completed. It isn't that we don't value our support staff. Obviously, we do. We tried to make efforts, and I don't know.
It has been appreciated to have the ability to work the past 4 to 5 weeks.
And for multiple weeks, the employees were receiving double time. Which gets it up over to, $20 an hour, which, and I realize our schools have been completely different. I think everything that we are addressing, the board is addressing, and I think the best of our ability in trying to prepare for an August that we probably don't know what August is going to look like until at least we get to June 15th. We spent some time talking about transportation. There are school districts in the state have already announced that they will not be providing transportation this next school year because of the limitations and the social distancing and going on. That's a decision that they've just already made. And So there is lots of things. I guess a little bit, we do want to notify. There are lots and lots, and I think when we get to the level that we have to notify, there are so many different positions with our special needs classrooms, with one-on-one aides, with health aides, with Title I teaching assistants. We don't even know our Title I. So we're trying to anticipate and look at some of those things. And it is extremely, extremely challenging. And if you tell someone, this is your position next year, I mean, we want to do the best of our ability to do that. And you know, we like to think that we get it right. That I'll be the first to say, I don't know, you know, I'm assuming Mrs. Green, our food service director, is the one that communicated to Mrs. Hudson. I never communicated that information, but we failed in that situation. We communicated some information that whenever that was communicated, it isn't the way the end of the year rolled out, and it isn't the way things are going to look in August. And you know, I apologize for that. But as we sit down and we look at those things, and you know, that's something that we're adjusting. So it is the last comment that you shared, and we do want to look at, and all of our teachers or all of our employees, we understand the child care difficulty, and we want our, if it's teaching assistants, if it's support staff, it's teachers, to allow those transfers and allow those requests. We understand that. And I know you don't know, and that's a very good point. It's a very good question.
I just have a daughter that, I
and
mean, every single night since COVID has hit, and she knows on May 2nd, she said, Mom, did you submit my transfer? Because we openly discuss things that are going on as a family at dinner and whatnot throughout the day. But she's asked, where am I going to go? You know, am I going to go to Parkview? Am I going to go to Lincoln? Or am I going to go to Chadwick? And I have to look at it. I don't even know where I'm going. And I was, you know, I got one email from our administrator that said, you should know mid-May. And then I waited around by the phone, you know, waiting for that email to pop through, and oh, you're going to find out on the 22nd. So I just, and I understand, I completely understand that COVID has been a nuisance for every single human being on planet Earth. That's the biggest pain in the keister that could possibly be known to man. But at the same time, I just kind of feel like, you know, and they're just support staff. You know, $10.49 an hour, you know, they're peons. That's the way I feel. And I hope that that doesn't come across as disrespectful to you guys. But I think I'm entitled to my opinion.
You are.
Be it right or wrong,
You are.
it's mine. And that's where I stand tonight. Just because I'm not even speaking as an employee, I'm speaking more of as a mom of a little girl that is worried about school next fall.
I understand, and I can relate. I was told one year on the third day of school, I had a job.
Yeah.
Get your stuff, get into school.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, here we are ahead. So I mean, but I just wanted to let you share. And
I appreciate
the
that.
ones that we didn't get communicated today, will all get communicated tomorrow.
It has
And then
been
it's-
a
then
joy
it's
the
how-
past 4
Then
years
it's
to
how
work
do
here.
we do it? Do we mail? Do we phone? Do we, you know, a lot of the individuals are not at work, you know, and those are challenges. And so we're doing an email, and then we're following up to make sure that everyone did get the email and the information.
Just for future reference, I mean, you mentioned a phone call. I think that would be such a huge, like, just to hear it from your mouth or, you know, whoever's mouth, just to know that, you know, this is what's going on. Instead of an email. It's just
The
a
only
little
thing
bit-
that happens is it's hard to make all the phone calls. And with
Absolutely,
email, you
right.
get to 260 people.
Yeah. With your
Signature
friend-
on
yeah,
it, yeah.
exactly. I'm just, you know, I like the personal touch. That's-
Thank you.
I promised myself that I wasn't going to address you this evening, but I'm going to anyway.
because that's how I roll. My name is Tricia Turner. I'm a Fayetteville parent. I have watched over the last month teachers and staff that have walked into their buildings not being certain of the pandemic like the rest of us, in the same fear and concern, but they have dutifully gone into their buildings and they have dutifully done all of the work that they have been asked to do. And I watched this happen, and then I watched another group of people come in and box up books and put things in dumpsters and break furniture so that it doesn't appear to be wasteful. I read your articles and your response to those dumpsters, being that things might have a missing screw or might be slightly somewhat damaged. I saw brand new notebooks in there firsthand. I saw brand new glue sticks, unopened packages, and you're gonna ask parents to replace those next year. You're gonna ask parents to send to school with their children after not working for a period of time thanks to this pandemic. You're going to ask them to supply those supplies again. I have seen all of this transpire, and I have heard blame it on the pandemic. And I have heard, you know, the timing is just poor, and so we can't have this auction and we can't invite the public in. Be that as it may, I am so disappointed in your actions in those dumpsters. And I would like to share with you a conversation that I had with my 8-year-old. And I try not to bring him into the circuit, but you know, sometimes passion spills over a little bit. And on a particularly passionate day, we noticed that he had not returned the library book to school on the last day that he was there. He was very concerned about that. So I agreed, you know, Max, I will return that for you. And I forgot when I went to pick up his first packet. And then I forgot when I went to pick up his second packet. And he saw it lying in my car after we watched the dumpster spill. He said, Mom, why didn't you take that back? And I immediately snapped at him and I said, because they all go in the garbage anyway if they were published after 2015. So you get to keep this one and I'll pay the school for it. And his reaction to me is what I wanted to share with you the most. His reaction was, Mom, why would they do that? There were still so many books in that school that I wanted to read. And this book was a part of a series and I'll never know how it ends. 8 years old, and that's what my son said to me. And I can't tell you how disappointed that has made me, that he's able to see that those things are so easily discardable, something that he took pride in, something that he was excited about. He was excited about reading, and it was so easily thrown in the trash. What do you think that makes those kids feel like? What do you think it makes the people that you just send emails on where their next assignment is going to be? What does it make them feel like? And I would ask that you maybe take some consideration to that. And when you reach out to those people, assure them that they are not discardable. And I don't know how you're going to do that with the kids. Because I know my 8-year-old will be forever changed because of what he saw in the dumpsters himself.
Any other persons to address the board?
I'd just like to say, I mean, thank you for considering what I brought to your attention, but it was not my intention to put everybody else in jeopardy or postpone what they need to do, because they're, 75 days out probably from going to school. And I realize that. But to address what you said, that you pulled that back because someone chose to take that route because they'll drive a corporation bus cheaper than a contractor. I understand maybe with the way you would view that, but if you put something out for bid, someone bids on it, they're putting that is going to be something put out if it's a reasonable bid. And the reason I think that was a reasonable bid, 33% of the bids he accepted were higher than that. That being said, that is the reason my concern is on how this was done. I mean, if you were truly, it was a thing of saving money, there's many other corporation routes you might have looked at to save money because this was not a high bid. But I do, I hate it from contractors. I do. That wouldn't like it.
Well, no, and I don't, I had several questions as I started looking into it. And I was conversing with Mr. Gilbert here, just because I knew he had been here a little longer than I had. And I've got several questions, and, you know, time wise was my only concern, but I do have several questions that I'll get with Mr. Mungle and
I understand.
And
I
Mr.
wish-
Pittman
I should
about-
wish you- I didn't went with that. No, that wasn't my intention.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
I have a question. So is there going to be negotiations at all on this contract? Reason why I asked is because my sister called you, Mr. Mungle, this afternoon, talked to you personally about her route, and said that she would as well come down to the same bid as Sheila, which was awarded her the route. So is that gonna be anything that happens?
If any,
Concerning that she has driven this route for 30 years, and she told you that.
yeah, anything that is done will be legal, and if we do negotiations, it will have to be done with everyone.
That's my question. Are there gonna be negotiations?
Well, we will,
We gotta,
we gotta figure that out. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay.
Right, yeah.
Thank you.
so like time wise, it's gonna, we just don't know, Pat, right now. Any other persons to address the board? Seeing none, we'll take upcoming meetings. There'll be an executive session at 5:15 PM on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at the NLCS Administration Building. There'll be an executive session at 5:15 PM and an NLCS School Board open session at 6:30 PM on Thursday, June 18th, 2020 at the NLCS Administration Building. With that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I just had one comment, I guess. When we were, the lady that was speaking about the food services and her transfers, I would just point out that our agenda was that this was a transfer, and nowhere did it mention that it was that she would be losing pay, or, you know, I think she classified it, I had a little trouble hearing her, but I believe she classified it as a demotion. And in no way did I know that or realize that. And I know we voted on that earlier, but again, it was classified as a transfer. And typically transfers that we've always voted on have just been a lateral transfer or a promotion. So, but actually, I don't even know those would be called a transfer if it was a promotion, because it would be a new position. So I don't know where we go from there, or if that's something we can look at on this particular woman who spoke, but I don't think that, I mean, I know I would have voted or agreed with it had I known it was a demotion, as she called it, and a loss of pay. So I don't know where we go from here on that. Like I said, it's already passed. I'm just one vote anyway. But I don't know if anybody else, you know, was confused on that as I was, but I just wanted to point that out.
Thanks, Kirsten. We're gonna have a conversation with Corey and Carla here when we adjourn.
I'd like to say something.
Mr. Gilbert?
First, I'd just really like to thank everyone in the corporation, especially the support staff. I know what it feels like to not feel like you're important. And especially, I'd like to thank Mr. Brown for coming up and speaking. You come here all the time. I respect you so much, and I appreciate it. And I'm deeply saddened that you and everyone else on the Visionary Committee are feeling so much heat from the community when all you guys did was try to make a difference. And I really hope people will stop blaming you guys for anything that they disagree with. So just want to put that out there. I just want to thank you and everyone else for getting through this year. It's been a tough one, and we're gonna get through it. We'll make it.
Well said.
Thank you. Appreciate
Well
it.
said. And I would echo that, Mr. Brown. You're here. You're here as much as we're here. And we appreciate that. we appreciate you, really appreciate your comments tonight. From your daughter as well. Because I've received numerous calls from aides, from support staff. And I remember the night that you said that particular thing about not waiting. And I'm not going to make excuses. And neither will anybody with the administration. That's it. We've been thrown several curveballs, but not to make an excuse. I apologize on behalf of the board, the administration, that we have not got that out sooner. But thank you always, as always, being respectful. It's greatly appreciated.
I just wanted to say a couple of things.
Sure.
In the resignations, there was a name there of a lady that I've known for many years. She worked with my mom at Dunn Hospital, and she graciously accepted the health occupations is what I call it, but it's health science instructor, Terry Briscoe. Terry has done a wonderful job out there at being with the Directors Advisory Board for the Career Center. I saw firsthand, Mary Kinzer was there for many years. Mary did a great job. Terry came in, and in her typical fashion, she looked at everything, and she recruited help. I can't say enough about how much IU Health and Bailey Campbell and Brian Griffith have helped that program out, but mainly it was because of Terry. Terry is a super person, and I hate to see her leave. I understand why she's leaving. It has nothing to do with the job. It's a personal thing. But I just wanted to publicly say that I really appreciate the work that she put into that program. I would go out to the Career Center, and of course you have to walk right by her door. And, there were always students hovering around her. And she is just like, get to work or something, but just her attitude, the relationship she had with those students was great. And then the other thing is Rosie the Riveter. I don't know what this school is going to be without her. She was like a spark plug, and she will greatly be missed. And I always told her I was mad at her. So now I can't be mad at her anymore because she's retired. I was mad at her because she left the Career Center and went out to Shawswick. But she did a great job. And I really hate to see her leave, but I understand her situation also. But I just wanted to say 2 very special ladies have left North Lawrence. Not that they're all not special, but these 2 were special to me. They were personal friends, and I really enjoyed their being around them and seeing them work.
Yeah, there are a lot of years up there of commitment to North Lawrence. And
yeah, you look at 47 years.
To echo what Larry said, congratulations to all of those. And once again, on behalf of the school board, we appreciate all of those folks for their time and dedication to North Lawrence schools. Anything else? I don't see anybody raising their hands, so I think we had a motion and a second to adjourn. All in favor? One last show of hands for the evening. Looks like Mrs. Collier, Dr. Gerges, Mr. Garrison, Mr. Gillespie, Mr. Arnold, Mr. Gilbert. 7-0, unanimously passed. Thank you all for zooming in.
Thank you.